If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. Well, I got a comment from Paul. He is from Australia, I believe. So thank you, Paul, for the comment. He was suggesting that a lot of the other YouTubers talk about the things you're going to need, the things you're going to need to buy, and the resources you're going to have. But they don't talk a lot about the personal development that you're going to have. Do you have the skill sets to actually live in a free campground without water or electricity or heat or all the things that people have become accustomed to living in a stick and brick? And so I wanted to go through this list of items that he gave me and talk about some of the things that I see and some of the things that I have to do in order to be able to accomplish all this. So the first one is, he says, sound decision making. Yeah, I agree that you got to be able to make good decisions. For example, we're going to have to stay in Missouri in the winter. So in order to overcome that, we have to make good decisions. How we're going to heat the camper, where we're going to stay, are we going to be close to town, or are we going to stay out in the forest a long distance away? What if it snows? But along that line, I'm also going to throw in there, you have to have the ability to do research. And I've talked about this a lot, being able to research an area for campgrounds. Where is the water? How far away is Walmart? Somebody told me one time, you put too much stock not being able to get to resources. There's a Walmart every 10 miles away. Well, that is not true. When you get out into the forest, Walmart can be as far as 60 miles away, and we've had to deal with that several times. In my mind, every time I talk about going out to town, it's like the old timers, you know, back in the 1800s would have to get the horse in a wagon and go several miles out to town, and it would be an all-day event. Well, the same thing kind of applies here. Self-confidence. Are you confident enough to be able to say, okay, I'm going to get rid of everything and live in a camper? Because the fear doesn't end once you start living in a camper. You have a lot of things that you have to deal with all the time. For example, I just mentioned having to come into this winter. That is a huge concern of mine. And I'm going to head on into it head on with lots of confidence that I can figure out any situation that arises. Of course, you always want to have a backup plan, and that, I think, becomes part of your self-confidence. If this doesn't work, I have this to go back on. For example, if we get out into the national forest and it snows, well, the one thing that we're going to have to be able to rest assured on is, one, we're going to have plenty of propane to make sure we stay warm. Two, we're going to have plenty of food, plenty of water. So all these things is kind of a backup plan. But the other thing we're going to have is a cell phone signal, because if all else fails, we'll be able to call for help. Another backup plan is being able to stay in the cab of the truck if we have to. Make sure the tank in the truck is full, the gas tank, so we can turn it on and heat up. That all helps with the self-confidence. Next one is problem solving. There are a lot of situations you come across that you have to figure out how to deal with. And one example I got is when we got to South Dakota, and there just was no water around. I mean, we just could not find a clean water source. And even if you find a clean water source, you know, a spigot somewhere, you're never totally confident that it's good drinking water. So you still have to use a water purification system. We use a Berkey. Well, the problem with the Berkey is if you put dirty water in it, stream water, everybody says, oh, put the stream water in the Berkey. Yes, the Berkey can filter that out. But you're really going to kill the life of your Berkey. They're supposed to be able to last 6,000 gallons or 6 years for 2 filters. The last one we had only lasted a year. So, you know, putting rusty water in it and dirty water in it constantly just wears them out. Well, they're $100. Well, what we did was we was able to build a water filtration system, and I call it a pre-filter. And on the pre-filter, it gets out the large particulates. So I can go get stream water, filter that water through this pre-filter. Now, it's just a Walmart filter. It's $30, and you can screw your hoses into it. And it works great. And so this was a problem that we ran into in South Dakota that we had to overcome so we could continue on our adventure. Perseverance, mental mindset. Look, it's easy to really start to fall down and not think, okay, this is just impossible. You know, waking up every morning and it's 30 degrees in the camper. That's a little bit tough to take. And this is your life. Now, we're not talking about a camping trip. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I can do it. I can sleep down to 19 degrees every day for the rest of the time that you can, your foreseeable future. This is your life. And you have to mentally prepare for this all the time. Well, just the other day, I was aggravated about everything. It just felt like nothing was going right. And it's just so easy to say, okay, I'm done. I'm just done. Having a partner on my adventure is a big help. Carolyn and I, when we're down, we can talk to each other and pick ourselves back up. And you really, I think, that is a huge asset for us. Financial management. I've preached this one until I'm blue in the face. This is real simple. And now even the bigger YouTubers are starting to talk about this. You've got to have an emergency fund. And I always say you got to have tens of thousands of dollars because it just makes sense. If I damage my truck and it's something that I've done wrong, burned up the engine, and insurance isn't going to pay for it, I got to be able to replace that. And in order to replace it, you're going to have a lot of money to replace it. You don't make as much money out here as you can living in a stick and brick. So when things go wrong, you got to have an emergency fund. And you always got to be putting money back into your emergency fund. Mechanical aptitude. Well, I've said this a lot. I prepared for this adventure my entire life. I have learned how to do DC electric. I have learned how to build things on my own. I've always been a tinkerer. I always tear things apart. I get comments all the time, questions about my thing doesn't work, whatever the thing is. This doesn't work. What should I do to fix it? Well, if you're asking a guy on YouTube how to fix something, you may want to really start researching. You need to get on Google. I mean, with the internet today, you can get on Google. You don't have to ask a YouTube guy and really start understanding the whole thing. I mean, I can tell you, yeah, you got a bad battery or you got a bad this or you got a bad that. But if you don't need to ask someone, you can just say, oh, well, I understand DC electric. This is the things that can go wrong. Here's what I need to look into. I think that's where you need to start looking at, not ask a YouTube guy, this isn't working, what do I do? That's not research and that's not learning. That's just relying on someone else to take care of you. You cannot rely on anybody else when you're living out here. Thanks for watching. Like if you like the video, and happy travels.